Here you are. I hope so. There's no place else to be but just here. And the nature of your mind is that it wanders off and in essence tries to co-opt you to all sorts of things. And it's a wonderful thing because human beings, we have such imaginative minds. But there's also, I think, the fundamentals of this, which is about peace and ease. And I don't use those words lightly, you know. That we come here on some level to, you know, create an instinctual silence within the nature of your mind. And I know you're going to tell stories and you're going to, but see if you can't just, it's just let go of it. It just goes on and on and on and on and on. And, with it, we just get more. We think we're solving things, but a lot of times we're just confusing things. Silence is such a beautiful thing, you know. Um, so I always think, well, if you have to be a little bit introverted for this practice, except for Jennifer, of course, who is the great extrovert. But the truth is, it doesn't matter what you are. Uh, you come to kind of, what is it? Settle your burden and see if you can't find kind of a clear mind and an open heart. So, taking a moment now just to find your posture. And traditionally, we immediately go to the breath, but I'm going to do a little different thing tonight. And then we're going to go immediately to the heart and just breathe into your heart. And see if you can't just bring some kindness to your body, your mind, so that what's happening here is the lining up of the mind, the body, and the heart. And it's the wonder of being a human. We hold these three things. And then as you settle into your body, you can start by just bringing attention to your feet, wherever you're sitting. Again, this is practices being able to aim the mind and then register what it is that's appearing or what's happening. So we kind of bring our attention to our feet and just, in the sense, kind of feeling the elements of earth, air, water, and fire that are the components of um, of the elements, and that we are those elements held in this word space. And just from your feet and your ankles, bringing your attention up through your calves and shins, up to your knees, and from your knees into what we know is the upper legs, the thighs, both the right and the left. And just allowing that knows, the mind itself, to explore the sensations of those elements of the body, in this case, the thighs. And then to bring attention into it's really the lowest part of the torso, so the buttocks on your pillow or bench or chair or couch. And bringing that awareness and the nature of awakening to the sensation. And as you feel into in the sense of buttocks on the chair, pillow, couch, bench, whatever, that where you sit, as bringing some ease to it. Oh, here I am. I am sitting in my wholeness. And then gently allowing that attention. We'll move up through the front and the back simultaneously. So we have uh, the hips and the lumbar vertebrae and the muscles. And we have then in the front the expansion and contraction of the stomach, the belly. And bringing a sense of relaxation and ease. One of the wonders of practice is that it doesn't create tension, it dissipates tension. So as you feel the belly as it rises and falls with the breath. And just noting this is kind of the center of your physical body. The belly, which is it takes the food and transforms it and has all these processes. But from the practice's point of view, it's not that, your kidneys are separate or your liver or the belly or the intestines. All of it is part of this living, breathing system. And can we bring some ease, some relaxation, some awareness to the fundamentals here? And then just allowing that attention to move up through the belly and the back and the vertebrae. And slowly, there's no hurry. We're not going anywhere, actually. We're just acknowledging where we are. And then allowing that awareness to move up, that mindful into the area of there's the belly, and then there's what we know is the diaphragm, that place between the lungs and the belly. And just taking a moment to notice or note that arising and falling, or expansion and contraction, that movement as the body breathes you. And just letting that awareness now move up into the chest and the area of the lungs as they expand and contract. And the phenomenal truth of this heart that beats. That is designated that holds life. And then just bring attention around, and you can feel your fingers if you need to wiggle them to note them, because sometimes it's not so easy to bring the mind directly to the physical body. That's okay. But if you need to wiggle your fingers and kind of the thumbs and noting the palms and the back of hands, the wrists, and moving the attention up through both hands and wrists and forearms. So we're really trying to be inclusive. So including the elbows and the upper arms, the bicep and tricep, up into this expansion, contraction of the lungs, and the movement of the heart. And then just noting that there's the shoulder blades in the back. And in that rising and falling, the muscles of the upper arms and the shoulders. And then attending to the neck. And just noting first the wonder of the throat and the vertebrae and the back and the muscles holding up the head. And then attending to this capacity of feeling into, there is the neck and the vertebrae, the throat, into this process, we can call it, called head. And there is the breath. There is the sensations of the different sense doors. There's smelling and tasting. There is seeing and hearing. So we bring awareness to these sense doors. And the wonder of this practice is you can feel the breath, this in and out, this rising and falling. And recognize it is the most simple truth. It is the commonality of all mammals, of all human beings, that we are the co-opt of the breath. It rises and falls and is known. And just noting for a moment there is the hearing, there is the smelling and the tasting, and there is seeing. These are the primal sense doors. And then you can bring your attention from those sense doors up into what we know as the cognitive part of ourselves, the brain. And just feeling into it, all the nature of the synapses and things connecting and at lightning speed. And our ability to bring the attention on up to the crown of the head. And from this crown, we can include what's above you, what's below you, what's to each side of you, what's behind you, in front of you. So there's this body that has this capacity for panoramic awareness. In this capacity to sit in the center. So one is awake to the body, awake to the mind, and the sensitivity and openness of the heart. Now, that awareness is not dependent on the body. It is, in a sense, of its own nature. So it attends to sounds and sights and smells and tastes, thoughts, feelings. If you find the mind wandering off, whether it's physical or emotional or thought wise, relax. Give that awareness. It is usually only in relationship to those sense doors and thinking and feeling. But it's actually more than that. It's actually that holds everything. And so just find your seat. Sit in the center of your being. We're going to take a little break here, and I want to keep it silent. So if you want to talk after uh, this evening, but for this break, just keep it silent. Well, information. Uh, First, Mary Helen Fine, she was the president here for years and years, and I worked with her for probably 30 years, and um, we now have a collaboration for my autobiography, which may be interesting and may not be. I don't know. I haven't finished it yet. It'll only finish when I'm finished, you know, and the rest is just stuff. So I have that, and I just I guess 2 days ago I got also a podcast. Now I can't even remember. It's on awareness, of course, because that's all I care about, particularly, you know, and maybe interesting, maybe not, but a little bit what I've been up to. And I did go, was it two nights ago? Is it to see it's actually in Germany, but it was the Dalai Lama, which was his 90th birthday um, Sunday. And so that's a big deal, you know. I mean, I don't think I'll make it that far, but I'm glad he did. And one of the things he said this last week, actually, was, before he wouldn't say whether he would come back. And now he's saying, I will come back. And I think it's, not that he really had a choice, but, this is more, well, it's more the politics of reincarnation. And so, anyway, I just think it's great. I was thinking when I met him when I was like 20, almost 60 years ago. That scares me. Um, but he was young, I was young, and it was like he was the Tibetan people around him were so devoted. It's the first time when I realized that how important the heart was, and that all these practices work for one thing. And yes, it's fundamentally a mind training. So the discipline is based on training the mind to feel the heart. That makes any sense to you. But that's really what's happening, because ultimately, um, the mind it, it gets some peace and ease and relaxes. And then it kind of sees itself in the dimensions of the world. And the world is something that a lot of us, in some levels, feared. And this is the mind trains that we don't have to fear and that we can actually trust and rest in the heart. And to me, this is the whole ball game, you know. I in my early 20s, I thought I would be a great yogi, you know, sort of coming out of the hate, Ashbury, and then traveling overland uh, through Europe and Asia, and looking for myself, you know. And I was really hoping that there was somebody there, but ultimately there was nobody there. You know, this was all a great facade, and we project who we think we are on ourselves and the people, our friends and family and people around us. But we're so much more than that, you know? I think sometimes in this sitting practice that we have this capacity to actually kind of, well, why I love to use the body as a fundamental here, because it has the ability to be panoramic. It can go beyond its limitation, which is really a lot of it is just its drives and its, its, I think, complexity. And this is saying, no, no, it's a lot more simple than that. You have to simply bring your attention to what it is that's here. And, to me, what's here is that there is something that knows. And that something that knows uh, has always been with you. It has been your friend since the very beginning. You know, it is not something that you had to make up or you had to. One of the wonders is that I tried so hard, thinking that somehow if I tried hard enough, get enlightened, and then I wouldn't have to think about any of it. It wasn't true. It was already here, and so in a way, I created more complexity than I needed to. But it also, when you look back through the generations of the teachers and how they all had to go through, in a sense, like a portal, and that portal was through who they thought they were. You know, and on some level, yes, that's what you have. That's what you can do. But then at some point, it's that's a burden, and these practices are may start with tension and burden, but they're not what it is. Because what it is that awareness is complete in itself. It's not something you have to manipulate or, somehow make it more than it is. It's already all here, you know. And yet there is, we could call it a journey that we go through from, in a sense, from ignorance to awakening. And yet the awakening was always with us. I read this was this today? I guess yes, it was today, this morning, um, about two people that they were Americans that had to be rescued on Mount Fuji, and I thought, oh, it could have been one of those people. You know, they actually went. This was or uh, next month they open, probably in 2 weeks or so. They open Mount Fuji to people. And I know I went underneath the the band that said "Do not enter." I went and said, "Oh, okay, this is my day," and I climbed a lot, different, you know, Everest, being a ski racer to climber. And I think all of it just prepared me in some way. You know, um, the mountain uh, was the uh, the represented pinnacle of awakening. So it was actually good to follow that and see if I didn't myself. And I was thinking I must have been close to 70 when I went there. And I remember just, it was a schlup. And I came down in a rainstorm. Oh, there had been, it was waiting for 6 days while there was a typhoon. silence. And so it was only clear for that morning. I said, I got to go. So I went, and next thing I knew, uh, I started to come down, and all closed in. And the next thing I knew, I was slodging with, because my boots were full of water, slodging through the descent. And at the bottom, uh, I remember that I went into, there's like a tea shop or whatever there, uh, where I ordered a taxi to come get me, warm up, and and there was this Japanese couple, young, and they went and they got me a little pin of Mount Fuji with snow on it, and gave it to me, and it was like, it was so heartfelt by them because they had such respect for that mountain. And I think, I've been up a lot of mountains and a lot of blessings, but that felt like something just out of the blue, you know. And it is about this, yes, we have to climb certain, whether it's education or mountains or um, it's human beings. We have this propensity, in a sense, we have a propensity for excellence, and whatever that may mean to you. And so we go for that, you know, and hopefully it's not something that confines you, but is something that actually releases you from this burden of being something more than you are, you know. And eventually you have to come back to this simple truth that you are who you are. And to get to love who you are is an excellence in itself, you know. So, in a sense, you don't have to climb more mountains. You don't have to uh, do great things, but you have to do something with great heart, you know. And to me, that's the criteria. And you know, you have spent so many years, in some sense, uh, I think, suffering for that excellence in some way, and yet um, you already were that, you know. So it wasn't that it was in vain. It was just simply that there is more to it than an excellence or perfectionism or another degree or another mountain or uh, whatever. Um, and you have it. You've been walking around. This is the beauty of it. You've been walking around in it this whole time. So it's not that, I mean, I've been a seeker all my life, and I did give it up. But, it's been a path that's been rich with incredible tales and people, and I wouldn't change it for anything. So I thought I would read one of my poems here since I'm here. Today was a good day, listening to the whispering, the hum below the mind chatter. Oh, so many stories told and retold. So many talks of mountains and pilgrimages and lakes and caves, foreign lands, demons and angels, saints, sinners, and clowns. Stumbling, always stumbling, some human frailty exposed. Try not to rush to some conclusion, but to dangle on on the ledge of not knowing, entangled in the ferocity of waiting. Why not? Relax. Relax in some small place where the grief and the dark waters of life's truths ease. Some breath between breaths that releases the burnt past, leaving some expansion, a luminosity, some awareness of the infinite. Close at hand. When every strategy has failed, standing on the precipice, saying, I can't take it anymore. So everything falls apart. So they talk sometimes about turning the mind around on itself, you know. And I know that's a kind of a oxymoron in some ways, but it's also possible, you know, to turn the mind around and see the functioning of the mind and how, you know, that mind is always chasing something, whether it's an idea or a thought, a feeling, um, holiness, you know, but it's always doing that. And so our kind of um, possibility here is that we can start seeing that, oh yes, um, a wakefulness, being awake, uh, which is in some sense all inclusive. It's holding everything at the same time. So it's not, you know, the splitting up of the world or dissecting it in any way. It's actually this truth of uh, I can hold everything at one time, you know, but that's holding the grief of the truth of this existence, you know. And what's true about this existence is this is a temporal process. It is due to causes and conditions. And some of those causes, which is this body functioning, breathing properly, um, it's just a process. You know, it's not, it holds everything, but it doesn't hold anything, if that makes sense to you, you know. So, yes, you could say you're, you know, kind of like a tiger chasing your tail, somehow thinking that somehow there's some uh, resolution in that. But the truth is, uh, only the awareness itself, that which is always here, that is part of everything. And it is always being co opted by a thought, a feeling, an emotion, a body sensation. So it is, in a sense, always co opted. And the art here is to, in a sense, kind of pull back from that enmesh that happens with the feeling or the thought or the emotion or the uh, great idea. Whatever it is, you have to pull yourself back, you know, And pulling yourself back is so much what this practice is based on. Somehow, oh, can I just pull back a little? And instead of, sometimes we have to focus very strongly on something to sometimes to get out of it or in it or around it. And but the main function here is to somehow hold everything at the same time. So the separateness was the illusion. And that separateness created sometimes winning and losing. And ultimately, there's no winning and losing here. I guess if there's anything, there's just losing, you know. Unfortunately, everyone is destined in this room for one thing. And so if we really could understand that, then a lot of times our possessiveness, our fear, uh, uh, it could be mitigated somewhat, could be lessened. And as it's lessened, then that fear between ourselves and the world and others diminishes. And we begin to see, oh, the separateness was a complete illusion. It was something that, uh, due to our fear, we constructed. And we went around thinking that somehow, you know, uh, I'll get a little off here, but we think that somehow love will uh, solve that. And in some ways it does, but the truth is that uh, I'm not advocating uh, uh, love of a singularity, but of a multi uh, truth. So there is no separateness. So it no longer is caught by person, but is caught by uh, simply a state of being. And that state of being is holding everything, you know. And it's the lovely thing about this awareness that is, it is not something that you can do anything with. It shows up because you were born, and it attaches to either a sense door or a thought or a feeling or an emotion, and um, and that's how it works. But our job here is somehow, can we just pull back from uh, obsessive uh, that obsessive uh, somehow catching and interpreting it and not realizing that it's so much more than that one specific thing. It is it's like the difference between the lens of a micro, which I'm not saying, because we do need that. And it's really part of this practice at the beginning. It's pretty much uh, going into the micro. But in a sense, the idea of going into it is to go through it. So we don't just, you know, go for the micro and think that's it. We have to go through the micro, which then expands it to everything else. And we walk around uh, recognizing the non-separateness of everything. And it's interesting because we have this thing that we want to know. So that's one of our driving forces. I want to know. But what I'm talking about is the end all of knowing. You know, it just simply is something that every time we contract around thinking we got it, we expand beyond it because it is beyond it. And that holds everything has never been co-opted, never been a problem, never been used. The only thing is that it has the capacity to, it's sort of the wide angle lens, but the lens is so wide that it's non-directional. So it's not behind you, it's not in front of you, it's not above you, it's not below you, it's not to your left, not to your right. It holds it all, you know. And so in a way, um, that kind of we could use the word spacious awareness holds everything, and that because it holds everything, then um, we don't have to necessarily control it or be afraid, because that's kind of human nature, is that because of the expansiveness of it all, is somehow we kind of freak and want to come back into uh, kind of a boundaried experience. And yet, what is this asking of you? It's asking that uh, you keep. It's like saying, I keep every time I contract, I essentially say, no, I'm more than that. And so there is this constantly this uh, correcting going on because of the awareness is co-opting a thought, a sight, a smell, a taste, a feeling. You know, it just, that's what it does. And yet, if you're on kind of the journey, the spiritual journey, you have to find a way, um, because it's kind of like we walk around in a trance. And that trance is through the identification. And so, because that identification, we keep creating this I, me, mine identity. And what we're talking about here is, oh no, I have to find a way to break that and begin seeing that there is uh, so much more going on here, you know. And yet we have confined ourselves to this very uh, narrow experience of, if I can use the terminology, uh, name and form. And so we name and we form, and out of our sense doors, including our mind, and that in some ways that can't go anywhere. It will just keep recycling itself into the world of, um, you know, they talk about the kind of the three poisons of greed, hatred, and delusion. And I think it's delusion that we keep getting fooled by. And if we can find a way to break that delusion, and you have to do it yourself. I can't do it from up here. You know, I've done what I could do for myself, and but you have to break yours, because you know you're incessantly, uh, if I can use the word selfing, you know, you're incessantly selfing due to your emotions and your thoughts, your feelings. and then your projections. And you will just keep going around, circling it over and over and over until you decide it's time. I'm going to free myself from it. And I think in some ways, the spiritual journey is about freeing yourself from the, if I can use the language, the petty tyrant, the kind of I, me, mind that is always identifying. And because it's always identifying, one of the particular feelings that goes with that is called fear. And the awareness itself, it can't have fear in it, because that's the separation. So it says that no, the fear is delusion. And yet it is so powerful that it has created wars in human existence for century upon century. And not that this century is excluded either, unfortunately for all of us, But we can change that. This is what I'm trying to say. You have all the tools you need. Now, one of the beauties of kind of Buddhist practice, which is a lot of it is just simplifying and releasing. That's really what it is. It's simplifying and releasing. And what are we releasing? We're releasing the identity, the dualism that is created through our identity and whatever we identify with. This is Tiara Wilbur, who was Ken Wilber's wife. My personal theory is you don't have to make an effort to change or stop certain behaviors you don't like. In fact, that gets in the way. The important thing is to see it clearly, to observe it, all of its aspects, to just witness it. And every time it arises and you see it, it doesn't catch you by surprise. The change is not a question of will. Will is necessary to cultivate awareness of the problem, deflect or hang-ups, but it often gets in the way of the kind of subtle, profound inner change. The kind of change moves us in directions of the way that is beyond our understanding and certainly beyond our capacity to consciously will it. It's more of an allowing, an opening, like grace, And it's funny because I spent so many years trying to change myself. I believed I could, and I had great experiences because of it, though. I spent years in the Himalayas, living in caves and climbing mountains, and but there was always that thing of, oh, there's something that's not right with me, And so I thought, well, if I can just, uh, get rid of or diminish that part of myself, then I'd be okay. Didn't happen, It's that was a futile run, And what did happen is a simple thing that is called self-acceptance. All my flaws um, are part of how and who I am. And so I have to learn in some way, and you have to learn to love that flaw in yourself. It's not something to get rid of, you know. And the thing that's beautiful about it is that when it's fully accepted, what you're taking is the power away from it. And if you take the power away from it, then even though it's still part of your history and you can't just get rid of that, but it no longer has any power. And if it doesn't have power, then you are essentially free. And that's the ideals here. We're trying to actually become free. You've spent all this time, you're all seekers. I know that. You wouldn't be here otherwise. Oh, maybe, but uh, but there's no winning with any of that. When there's full self-acceptance, and unfortunately that means all the flaws are they are your teachers. They are the things that come and give you the view, in a sense, of what's happening. And you'd like to get rid of them, but you can't. If you try to get rid of them, that means you are bothered by them. Then they stick with you. But once you truly make friends and you learn to accept and love, then it is very simple. You're not bothered by it anymore, and you're free of the conditions that held you in that past or uh, complexity. So maybe a question or two. I don't know what I'm doing. I never do. I never have. Except that I knew I wanted to be free, and I worked very hard in many ways. To not be bothered. So please, Jen. Yeah.
So I've got a microphone. If anybody in this hall wants to raise a hand, and we'll pass the microphone. That way the people on Zoom can hear the question from the hall. And I think Robin can monitor if anybody raises a virtual hand.
Boy, I must have done a good job then.
Okay, we got a hand in the hall.
There we go. Once we get going. Yeah. And please, your name?
Yeah, Ernest. Thank you for the talk, John. Very informative. And what you were just saying about once you accept your flaws, I forget what I was reading, but there was a phrase in there: when you accept the unacceptable in yourself, transformation begins. And for you to speak on this when I just read it is amazing. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Well, this is kind of a human theme.
We have a question on Zoom. Marie, you can unmute yourself and.
Thank you. Hi. John, I just wanted to share, since you brought up the Dalai Lama, Mystic Theater showed his 2024 film, Wisdom of Happiness, Heart-to-Heart Talk with the Dalai Lama. And it's playing tonight, last night at Mystic Theater, 7:30, if anyone's interested. Great film. And I was very impressed that he went as far. I didn't realize how much he supported and is encouraging, women to take more leadership roles and the need for that based, focused on compassion, that he even went as far to say the next Lama should be a woman. I was impressed.
Oh, times they are a changing. And His Holiness has been certainly been an inspiration in my life and so many others. And, in that movie, he talked about how women should be, guys should be ruling things. We've tried for I don't know for how long, but what a mess we made, with our testosterone. And it's time, we tried and we made a mess of it. And I get a little disappointed in our government culture right now. Um, a little, yeah, a little. I'm not going to exaggerate because it would be easy, but we need to change. And I was thinking, oh, we didn't make it, at least in this country, and I'm hoping that um, we can get some, really, it is intelligence back. But I don't know what that's going to take right now with the beating of the drums and the kind of the it's crazy, and I was going to say one of the things I try never to do is talk about politics, but it is true that, and I think most of the people here, not always, I've had situations where I've gotten myself in trouble with being on one side of the fence, and my job is to stay in the middle of the fence, to hold human beings in equal proportion. But lately, I haven't been doing a very good job of that. I'm getting old now, so I'm permitted a little bit more, be a little more critical of the powers that be. So, Bear, you have a question? Yeah.
Thank you, John. So the fence is form,
To what?
right? If there's a fence, it's form. It's part of form, wouldn't it be?
Yes, it is definitely that.
And if I'm understand you correctly, you're saying that name and form that's pretty much at the heart of our suffering because of our identification,
The I and the me and the mine.
right? As though this form and that form are somehow separate, and so I see that as other. And what am I trying to say here? Uh, for myself, I've been working with this name and form and identification and attachment and how they all come
Good.
together. And
Great.
name and form is all conditioned. It arises due to causes and conditions, where things like love and compassion, they're unconditioned. Awareness, They're unconditioned. They don't arise and they don't pass. They've always been there. They're always accessible. But for me, I have to see through the form. I have to see through the identification with name and form, with I, me, my, to be able to really surrender, I guess it would be, into that flow of awareness or being. Um, what do you have anything you could say about that?
Well, it's, this is, I always thought, well, I had some very enlightening moments when I was a young sadhu and seeker, which were great, but they showed me something, but I was still caught in this John that identifies. And so it's been a process of loosening that up, has been really what it's about. I'm not going to get rid of it, because you have the relative and the absolute. And the relative says, I'm John, I'm a neurotic. I have certain leanings and past attachments, and which will be somewhat future attachments. And I'm aware of that. And then the other side says, I'm way more than that. And what I hope is that, yes, you have your relative self, and the relative self is based in suffering, and the absolute is not. It is beyond that. It's outside of that. And so somehow we're going to have to play this in this dualism of absolute and relative for whatever purposes. But the ideal is you're going to try to thin out that I, me, mine. And that somehow, because you create separateness, then you also can identify or hold to the absolute, to what is actually holding everything. And that's, I think all spiritual practices are based on this. It's not exclusive to Buddhist stuff, which came out of Hindu stuff. And I don't know what before that, there was certainly something also that held it all, So, and our job is to undo that. Can we, spend our time investigating that contraction around the I, me, mine? And then as we recognize the contraction, then it kind of loosens. And more it loosens, the more you see that, who are you? You're not a warring creature. You are a loving creature. And you're somebody who cares for other. And I don't know, what can you do more than that? So hopefully that's an okay answer. Oh, you're welcome, Bear. We're kind of coming to time here. And so I wanted to kind of do a little metta for us. And start with this story. If there's any way that I may have harmed myself, and you can just say this in your mind, if there's any way that I may have harmed myself, knowingly or unknowingly, I ask for forgiveness. If there's anyone that I may have harmed, knowingly or unknowingly, I extend this gift of acceptance and forgiveness. And if there is anyone who may have harmed me, knowingly or unknowingly, I willingly undertake the process of forgiveness, no matter how long it takes. And I'm sorry we have to bring that up, but we are possessive creatures. So just taking a moment and bringing your attention to your heart. And I think, we train the mind simply because it's full of the poisons of greed, hatred, and delusion. We train the mind to then bring the attention to the heart. And if we can bring our attention to our heart, then we can note that there is actually separateness was a delusion. Whether it's the trees or the streams or the sun or the moon or the winds or and also the floods and the fires and all of it. We hold all things in this capacity of non-separateness, of loving kindness. And that if there's any way that we could help in this world of confusion and greed, that so be it, that we can use our time and energy to free ourselves and to free others for our benefit and for the benefit of others. May all beings everywhere be free of suffering, be free of attachment, comparison, to be free of old identities, old pains and sorrows, and release, and see that when all is free, that no separateness, therefore there is simply love for all things, whether it's a tree or an ant or a fly or whatever it may be, that it is part and parcel to our time, short time in this world. May you be an object of loving kindness for your benefit and the benefit of beings everywhere. May all beings everywhere be happy. So please stay out of trouble.